everybody and welcome to Ed's Boat. And spring has most definitely sprung. The weather's warming up, there's blossom on the trees, the birds are singing, it's all really good and the canal is moving, there's boats about. Right, in the last episode I mentioned that we needed to get back to some work and the job I needed to finish was installing the stove. Now the weather's warming up but I still need to finish installing the stove, so I need to put the flue in. So unfortunately I've lost the video footage that I shot of putting the roof fitting straight. So what I did there was I lifted it up, put some metal wedges underneath it and bolted it back down, and you join me just as I'm tightening the roof fitting in. If you can forgive the shaky camera for a moment, I'm doing this one-handed, it's a bit awkward. I need to tighten that nut up, so I'll just quickly tighten it with my fingers. Mole grips are holding it on the outside to stop it spinning, that's wedged against the side of there on the outside, and I can just get... Oh, don't slip. Difficult one-handed this. I can just get, oh, let's focus. Just get my spanner in and tighten up the nuts. Right, I need two hands to get that up really tight. Okay, we're all straightened up. We're as straight as we're ever going to be. And if I just drop down a bit so you can get a better look at it, that's pretty square. I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, I have a massive gap down that side which I have to seal up. Right, I have scraped out all the old silicone sealer, and round the side there's going to be a massive gap, but we'll cover that in a moment. And what I'm going to do now is where those gaps are, I'm going to force in some caulking. I'm going to make this out of this heat wrap. I'm going to force it right up inside the join, all the way around the back there, and make up that gap. Now it's not structural because I've got those metal wedges holding it up, but what it will do is it will give a insulated seal, if you like, against condensation build up in the gap. So hopefully that will sort of eliminate that. So this is the stove flue I have got. It came from Midland Chandlers. I'd have to check the receipts for exactly how much it cost. It's around about the £30 mark or something like that for like 1.5 metres or just over 1.5 metres. It's a really heavy gauge single skin flue. It has got a seam down it. I'm going to put that at the back where nobody's going to see it. It's a question of cutting it. Now because it's such a heavy gauge piece of tubing, cutting it is not the sort of thing you want to do with a hacksaw quickly or with a grinder because it'd be messy, although some people might not have any choice but to do that. But fortunately I have got access to a workshop with a saw which I can set the angles in, so I'll go and do that quickly. I have my stovepipe all cut and shaped. It's only tacked together for the moment because we need to do a test fit. But I've also got this conversion collar, and what this does, this fits in the top of the stove and has a specially shaped taper in the top that allows the damper to open and close freely so it doesn't get clogged up. But the other end of it fitted the pipe too well. It was too tight. It would go in, but it wasn't a nice fit, and I suspect that the actual stovepipe isn't perfectly round. Now luckily I've got access to a lathe, so I managed to take a little skim out of it, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to get a rattle fit. So it's not too tight, not too slack, it's just a bit of rattling like that. And that means I can get some cement into the seal rather than squeeze all the cement out, and it will hold in without falling out. I think that is about right. So next thing to do is we'll have a test fit. All right, here I go. So it should, it's quite heavy. Ooh, go into the hole. And then twist into position. And it goes down nice and firmly. I've got a nice healthy gap there, which I can put some heat-proof material in to hold it in position. And the bottom fit, yeah, that's about ideal. Really pleased with that. Right, the next thing to do is to go away, weld up these joins, clean them all up, get it all painted, and then do the final fit. Okay, the stove flue is now one piece, all welded up, smooth back, coat of high temperature paint on it, just to stop any surface rust forming. I need to put a cement seal on. I've already put one on there. I'm going to put the second one on now into this collar and drop the flue in. Okay, the stuff I'm using is Vitkus fire cement, rated to 1250 degrees centigrade or Celsius. Extreme high temperature putty. It's quite thick, and you just literally smooth it into where the join is going to be and force it in like that, and then that should form a base seal and a side seal for the flue. And it is weird stuff to put on, but it goes on okay. Well, now it's a question of just dropping the flue into place, which will go in like that and push it in firmly. And I'm in. Right, now I need to look at the top piece here, and it's quite a slack fit in there, but it needs to be a slack fit because you have to allow for expansion when it all gets hot. But what I've done is I've cut a piece of exhaust wrap. I'm going to put that round, and I'm going to put that up between the gap, and that'll help keep out any sort of condensation, and it'll also make up any excess in the gap and stop it rattling when the engine's moving. I don't really want it to rattle around, and this seemed to be a reasonably good fit. So if I can slide that up inside there and then seal it in, that'll be a good thing. So I just need to get a screwdriver now and just force that back up there, and then that means when the engine's running, this thing shouldn't rattle around too much, but it will still allow it to expand. I'm going to do exactly the same on the outside. Cut a piece of exhaust wrap, I'm going to push it down in the gap, flush to the top fitting. It will go in, push it in with a screwdriver and just make up that gap a bit, and this again will stop it rattling around and making a noise when the engine's running. And then I'm going to put a smear of silicone sealer all the way around this end and a smear of silicone sealer on the inside, and that will weather seal it. So now this flue, which is sticking up above this roof fitting, and that's for a reason, but I'll show you that later on, is now sealed between here and the inside of the flue. So no fumes can get from here, swirl round the outside and get back down that gap once I've sealed it. Okay, the bottom is in. I've got 2 cement seals there. And if I go up to the top of the flue, around the top here, I've sealed it all the way around, but I've used high temperature silicone sealer because gravity's against me, you know, and if I was to put a cement seal in there, it would just fall down with the vibration of the boat. So I need something with a bit of give in it. So I've used a proper flue silicone sealer. Silicone sealer can take a massive temperature anyway, but this is special stuff designed for flues and stuff like that. So I've put that on. Now it's just a question of waiting for the sealant to go off and the cement seals to go off, and then we can carry on with the rest of the work. 24 hours later, and the cement seals have started to go off nicely, and the top seal has gone off, and it has been raining really heavily all night, and today, well, it's wet again. It's a really fine sort of spray rain in the air, which has tested all the seals, and I've got no drips on the top of the fire. So what I need to do now is a test burn. This is a control burn, and what I want to do is I'm just experimenting. I just want to see how hot that flue gets and see what sort of area it radiates out onto here, because I need to put some heat shielding there. So this is just an experiment. So I'm only putting a tiny amount in, and I just want to test how far out it sort of radiates and give me some idea of the shape that I need, because I don't want to have to do it twice. So yeah, this is just a very sort of light general test, and all I'm going to do is I've got a little inside there, I don't know if you can see that, I've got a little heat log which I've cut in half, and I'm going to burn that, and we're just going to check that the seals are okay. And if I get any leaks or anything silly like that, I can just lift that block out, put it in a bucket of water, get rid of it and address the issue. Okay, the result of the fire test. This is just purely for my own personal sort of reference. I need to know the characteristics of this flue. I'll explain a little bit more as I go along. So I want to check how much heat is being radiated out from the flue to the rest of the boat. So if I touch the roof fitting, I can actually put my hands on that, and it's slightly warm, cool actually, but I can touch that quite comfortably, and the area around it, including the roof, is cold, even the woodwork. So if I move down, what I was worried about is the heat from the flue interfering with the size of the boat, which is a combustible surface. So I do need to put a heat shield in there, but I want to know exactly what I'm up against. So if I put my hand here, or the back of my hand, that's slightly warm. Now that's the closest distance, it's only slightly warm. The fire's been burning for about 3 hours. It's not been flat out, but it's been a reasonable amount of fuel in it. that's just slightly warm. It's nothing to worry about, to be honest. And if I move down the back of my hand, again, the next warm bit is round about here. If I go to there, that's cool, and there, that's cool. So it's just literally down the middle. This piece of wood here, this wood trim, yeah, barely warm. Underneath the gunnel, it's okay. That's all right. The top of that's okay. If I move my hand down, the tiles, there's cool, and it gets a bit warmer as I get to here. And that bit there is actually quite warm. I can touch it with my hand. It's not that hot, but it is warm. So I do need maybe some more protection there to stop it pushing the tiles off. And then literally in a line, I don't know, a gap about that much of heat shielding maybe, just to protect it if the fire's on. So now I know what I'm up against. I can then go and build that and fit it. The next job I needed to do was secure the weight of the flue. So that is the flue sticking through the top of the roof fitting there. I've just put a silicone seal in there just to keep the damp out. That's not sealing the flue, that's just stopping damp getting in. And what I've done is I've cut a piece of aluminium, quite a thick piece of aluminium, and that is going to slot over the top of that, tighten in with these grub screws all the way around, and that will make a locking ring which will fit inside my chimney cap or chimney pot, whatever you want to call it, and hold the flue in place, but you won't be able to see it. Now, you could do this many other ways. You could weld brackets in and around to secure it, but I thought I'd do it this way. This is my own take on it, because you won't be able to see it and it will still work. But these grub screws, I've just sprayed some corrosion inhibitor in there to stop them rusting up over a period of time. But if they do decide to rust in or corrode in one way or another, I'll just drill them out. It's not a big deal for me. So that will fit on top nice and snugly, and then I can just screw in the grub screws, all 4 of them. Like that, and I'm just going to use this just to get a little bit more tension on. 3 and 4, and that should grip into the actual flue itself and stop it falling through. Then it's just a question of putting your chimney pot straight over the top, and nobody's any the wiser. Well, that's the stove installed and the flue put in. Just need to put that heat protection in. I'll update you on that as I do it. And that's my take on it. That's how I see the rules and regulations applying to me. If you want to do your own stove installation and flue installation, do check up, do your research, do read up on the websites, and particularly the rules and regulations applying to boats. In particular, the Solitech website. Also, do check out your manufacturer's guidelines. I downloaded mine as a PDF file online, read through all of it, some really good information on that. But when I got to a little paragraph at the very end of it, it said, unless you're fitting it on a boat, in which case refer to the Solitech website, which I suspect is true of quite a few stove manufacturers. So if you want to install your own flue and stove, do your research, check it out, check out the rules and regulations, read your manufacturer's guidelines, and refer to the Solitech website as well. Don't hit comments with lots of questions about your installation and your technical queries. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to enforce the rules and regulations. I'm just showing you my take on it and how I coped with it. But I think I've shown that it can be quite a tricky job, or it can be quite easy depending on what your installation is. So that's it for this episode, I think. Yeah. So on the next episode, well, maybe we'll be doing a little bit of finishing inside, some bits of trim, some home comforts maybe. I don't know, we'll see. But in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you soon.